Welcome to the Yang Roundtable. We are a basic income advocacy podcast. We talk about basic income, electoral politics, and poverty. And today we have Sherry Kirchoff.
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 Tricky German name, sorry.
And Rich.
Riel, don't rile me, but I'm not really Rich Riel. I am Socrates.
Thank you.
Don't remember Rich Riel. I am Socrates. From now on, I will only answer to Socrates.
So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves. I hear you guys can talk, so I'm going to just let you talk.
All right. May I talk first?
Please, yes.
As a philosopher who's calling upon 2,500 years of history. I mean, I want to identify what we are in the middle of right now. And perhaps I'm going to define the topic for you, but here it is. I call it the hogwash virus. It strikes at the very heart of our republic. Okay? So here's my point to all of us. I'm going to assume that all of you have written my disciple's book, Plato's Republic, of which he quotes me at great length. Have you all read The Republic?
I have not.
You have not?
Not in its entirety, no.
All right. Well, then I will tell you the importance to you. Perhaps I will turn this into a very short lesson on philosophy. Okay. 2,500 years ago, the dawn of Western civilization, we had a place called Athens, Greece. And from that, we came up with the idea that science and medicine and philosophy and all of the things that we study today, all of that started for the Western civilization with Athens, Greece. We were the ones who defined philosophy. And if you ever really want to learn why America is a republic, which we are today, you merely need to read The Republic and understand the comment that Ben Franklin said 200 years ago. And I was there with him. And he says, when asked by everybody, when they'd signed the Constitution of the United States, they asked him, well, what is this form of government? And he smiled at the reporter and he said, a republic, if you can keep it. Now, he defines the 5 different types of government that you can have. And I'm getting too far ahead. Let me throw it open to you. I'm sorry, I hogged the mic too much.
Sherry, do you want to introduce yourself? Oh man, technical difficulties at a time like this.
Muted, Sherry.
Yeah, Sherry, just unmute yourself.
Sorry, I'm a little new to Zoom myself. My bad. I'm Sherry Kirchoff, and on Twitter you can usually find me as Hippie Eclectic Hope. My son and I are survivors of human trafficking our entire lives. My biological mom and my son's biological dad are of the mindset that you could create children to create property. And so in fighting the establishment that favors this sort of behavior and looks the other way and allows it, you know, I've just gotten really fired up in the human rights movement. Like, you know, my son and I are, you know, members of ADOS and the NAACP and other assorted, you know, help society, you know, groups, just trying to bring humanity together and help all of us, you know, to, you know, make a nation that we can all live in safety instead of this hate culture war game that we're all stuck in. You know, I'm one of those, you know, peace, love, and chicken grease kind of hippies. You know, I don't see why there needs to be conflict amongst clans and families and groups. You know, we should be working together and building together instead of attacking each other. And so, you know, I'm just a fired up human rights activist, 2nd generation hippie. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome on. Sorry about what you've been through, though. Man, that's heavy. That's a lot. And there are a lot of people who are suffering very similar pains to you, which is so unfortunate.
That's the thing. My story is so universal that it's nauseating. but at the same time, no offense to her or anything, but I'm not going to be coming up here like Krista Gillibrand. Hi, I'm a rich white lady of privilege, and I want to sprinkle that privilege on you little people because la-di-da. That's not me. That's not me. I'm real. I'm here. I'm fighting. I mean, and I'm getting attacked by the Bloods for it. But if this is the worst I get from the Bloods, then I'm scared.
Okay. So my name is Ariel. You can find me on Twitter as Ariels_Armada. And I love, science, technology, aviation, and I recently bought myself a little chemistry set, and I'm trying to do this experiment with sodium acetate to create this. I'm having a little bit of trouble, but like that's just what I saw in this Yang campaign. Just like a future, like tech, science, logic, data, instead of this primitive bullshit that we have with all these other morons. But anyway, that's for another day. And you can also find me on YouTube as Revolutionary Thinking. And if you like watching, photos of the sky and views, you can find me on Instagram as Ariels. Actually, Ariels_Ariels. So that's ARIELS_AERIALS. It just fits together so nicely. Thank
you. Maybe I'll introduce myself now. Hello, my name's Faye. My username on Twitter is @Tisdoney, TISDONEY. I don't usually give too much introduction about myself, but I don't know. I'm really happy to have you guys on this podcast, and I'm excited to hear your guys' perspectives and I almost want to see Rich and Sherry have a conversation. That's like an intense.
I'm prepared. I would like to respond to what
Let's
Sherry
do
said.
that. It seems like you have a great idea for sort of the framework of this episode. Why don't you set up a framework and let our guests have the conversation? That sounds like a great idea.
Should we introduce you, Shale and Jeremy?
Let's get everybody on so we know who we got here.
My name is Shale Riley. I am at SHAELRILEY on Twitter. I am the creator of the show and one of the producers. Jeremy is my co-producer here.
Yeah, this is Jeremy. Like Shale said, co-producer for this Roundtable podcast. Super happy to have Rich and Sherry on today. I'm a big fan of rabble rousers. So Rich, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. If anybody wants to follow me on Twitter, I can be found at Jeremy Sammons1. It is Jeremy, or JEREMY SAMMONS and the number 1.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Okay.
So with that, Faye, shall you? What a strange construct. Will you please proceed with that framework?
Oh, well, yeah. Go ahead, Socrates.
Thank you.
What were you talking about?
Okay, I want to focus in because what Sherry says is, first of all, she and I are kindred spirits. We're both rebels. We both have causes, and the reason that we will continue on in our life having the great time that we're having is we are passionate about what we believe. And that's how come that I look so good for as old as I really am. I'm passionate about what I believe as a philosopher. The highest duty of a philosopher is to tell the truth and search for the truth. So, Sherry, here's some truths for you, okay? When I was walking around in Athens 2,500 years ago, we had slaves, okay? Slavery has existed since human beings, the human condition has been set up for slavery. So it is a naturally occurring thing that human beings want to enslave other human beings. I'm not justifying that it's right. I'm just pointing out from a historical standpoint that we have done it for a long period of time. And every time we have Maslow defined them as higher needs. And he says, basic needs are food, shelter, and clothing. You don't think about integrity. You don't think about truth. You don't think about anything until you have satisfied these basic needs. And a lot of times slavery was a very efficient way to get to these basic needs. But now that we've achieved a civilization where we no longer have to track off of each other to survive. We have now examined the institution of slavery and found that it is moral. Everybody will agree that it's immoral, but it exists today. So my question to you is, why are we again, do we have slavery in America? No. So why are we even bringing it up as an issue here in America? If you're looking at worldwide trafficking, then yes, I could see where it has some relevance. But for you to tell me that America has slavery, unless you're talking, and maybe that's where we're focusing on, is sex slavery. Now, that's a very interesting thing, and we talk about the philosophy of power, but I've spoken way too long. Sherry, please respond.
I've been forced into unpaid labor and domestic captivity. You're welcome, honey, Aaron. My 5-year-old just got out of the bath. But anyway, I've been a domestic servant since the day I chose to be born defective, because my mommy didn't deserve any imperfect children. I've been subject to beatings in school, out of school, after school, in the community. I've been forced into unpaid labor. I've been sexually assaulted by many different people. I have been in that subhuman status my entire life because I've been deemed less than human my entire life. And if you're a person of color, if you're disabled, if you're LGBTQ and you happen to be from the wrong community, like I didn't even know I had a great Uncle Marvin until I applied for a job at his flower shop when I was 20. And it's like, hey, sir, you look like my grandpa. You better not be talking about that George asshole. And then I found out a little family history. And I went to my beloved grandfather and I reamed him a new one. It's like, you mean to tell me that you threw your old brother away because he's a Q word? And then you told me about, oh, in the 50s, we didn't do like that. We didn't talk about that. We didn't allow that. It's like, excuse me, this man came, you literally cast him out of everything. And he started with 2 pennies and created this flower shop. And he has the best flower shop in the southern half of Wisconsin. And the only time he hears from his so-called family is when y'all want the discount for a wedding or a funeral. Like, in this American hate culture and this subhuman standardization is disgusting to me. It's such a part of American culture. Oh, God told us to take this land from the Native Americans. Yeah, no, God told us thou shalt not kill. And I've been fighting the subhumanization of our fellow American residents my entire life. 8 years old, filing 3-page back and front reports on why skin color doesn't have anything to do about human character, and we need to knock that crap off. I've been fighting it my whole life. You can't tell me that there's not slavery in America when women get paid less than men, when women are just shunned when their man decides to leave them with the kids. That there's any excuse that humans can come up with to dehumanize somebody and it's socially acceptable. I'm not arguing that there's been slavery over the entire course of humanity. Like, that's been the thing. But what I think is, aren't we smart enough to evolve past that? To work together as brethren and to be humanizing each other?
We have to evolve into something new, right? But I think the other thing is we need to learn how to stop being the bystander when we do see it. So
exactly, fighting is active.
Wait a minute. I would like to interject that, first of all, we have or at least I'm confused. Okay, if we're talking about slavery, I made a statement and it's a true statement. The statement is that slavery is illegal in the United States of America. Okay, and your response to that is not that that's not true, but because of social. And look, we're going to talk about truth. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I admire your spirit. So I'm just going to tell you purely from a philosophical standpoint here. If you're telling me that I want to understand where we are in the level of conversation. So I'm going to say something and I'm going to ask you to disagree or agree with it. Is it true that there are laws that exist against slavery in the United States, and that slavery is illegal in the United States. Is that true?
It's written, but it's subjectively.
Okay, now wait a minute. Hold on. This is still my time, and I'll give you your chance to respond. Okay. So that's a no. So now what we have is we're talking about, that's the law, but now we're talking about human behavior, because we can outlaw everything. I mean, they used to outlaw marijuana, and we now have some sort of legalization of marijuana. So what you're saying to me is, oh yeah, we got laws in place, but it's still occurring. And now we have degrees, okay? And let's talk about degrees of slavery, because I'm going to tell you what it was like being a slave back in Athens, Greece, 2,500 years ago. You had people dying in the street. Anybody want to kill their slave? They just killed them, left them out dying in the street. That's not what we have today. We have disagreements about income, and that's what you're telling me is you and Faye have the same feeling about income. You equate income and your lifestyle with being oppressed. You're saying I'm poor, therefore I am oppressed. Okay? Now, that's what I'm taking away. Please respond to what I'm saying.
My last owner, the father of my son, took me at knife point as his slave on Mother's Day of 2014. Reports to police and every other authority figure were not listened to because, oh, you're with him, aren't you? Yeah, because I feel like sucking air and I don't feel like getting my throat slit. This guy has a knife in his pocket right now, ready to come out if I disobey. I was raped almost every night for the first 14 months of a half a decade of ownership. When this man was talking in court about planning to kill me and abduct my son, the judge smiled, dusted her hands, and walked out of the room. When I illustrated to this judge and proved his criminality, his outlaw motorcycle gang heritage, everything that he trafficked me to do, illegal, out of job, whatever, at knife point, was applauded. That's how it is in Colorado.
All right.
Literally taken as property.
I agree. I agree that what happened to you happened, and that the law is terrible, that our justice system sucks. But I got to tell you, if he was with you 2,500 years ago, he wouldn't have cared. He would have just slit your throat. But because we have laws, and he was concerned about the laws and the repercussions. So the point I'm trying to make is things have gotten better, and you unfortunately have suffered under what is clearly horrendous circumstances, and my heart goes out to you. But when you put it in perspective, and that's what I bring, I'm trying to bring you the perspective of humanity and put it back. And I don't want you to walk out from here and not stop fighting for the rights of women and sex trafficking, because we all know it exists in the world. But I want to put it back into perspective as to where you are and how you are able to conduct yourself because of my republic, my idea. You have the right to walk down the street. And the theory is, I didn't promise you a perfect government. All I promised you is at least the freedom to walk down the street and say your ideas without fear of being incarcerated for them. And thank God for America, you can. She says, how do I respond to that? I understand that.
All right, I guess I'll try to jump in real quick, and I kind of want to know some more about Rich and his. You have founded what is known as the Hogwash Party. I would like to know some more information about that. Like, what was your inspiration for getting this off the ground? What are you really involved with? And
well, first of all, you're addressing the wrong guy. Socrates.
Socrates.
This is Socrates' idea. I mean, this is not this. Who is this man? Who is this masked man you talk about? I'm going to address it as Socrates. I've got to tell you is that I have now come out of the closet, from the closet of history. I am here and I am alive. Hold on a second. Let me get a reason why I'm alive. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hold in my hands a bottle of truth. And you're looking at this and you're saying, well, how do you know it's a bottle of truth? It's a bottle of truth because I tell you it's a bottle of truth. And as a philosopher, I've been searching for the truth all of my life, and I now have the truth. And that's how come I could talk to you today about the Hogwash Party. First of all, the Hogwash Party is based on the idea of Plato's Republic. And a republic was formed on the idea that the best leader, and it goes back down to the best government. Again, the whole idea behind Plato's Republic. And remember, Plato is my student. I'm Socrates. The interesting part about me is that everything that I have ever said has been written down by others, but everything that I wrote down is gone. When they burned the libraries of Alexandria, all of my works went up in flame, and I am just too tired to rewrite that stuff ever again. But I am amazed at all of and that's the power of ideas, and that's what I bring to you, and that's what Hogwash brings to you, the power of ideas. Okay, now the idea behind the Hogwash Party is three things. We need, and before I do this, I have to tell you that I come from a background of philosophers throughout history, and we all are again, we all are reunited by the idea of hogwash, truth. It's the essence of truth. And the political party that I founded is predicated on the idea we need to bring the republic back, and that is we need, most important of all, leaders who will protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. That is the most perfect document, and it is the results of my ideas. And that's what really tickles me. I had the idea, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, all of them got together and agreed with me and said, yes, we want the highest form of government, and the highest form of government is a republic. It is a balance between majority rules and the law, giving the law an edge. Because as human beings, most of the time when we act in concert as human beings, we make good decisions. But once in a while, we make some bad decisions in the majority, and that's why we need laws to protect us. And that's why we have the Hogwash Party. The Hogwash Party, protect and defend the Constitution. It's a duty, an honor, and a privilege to serve the American Republic in any capacity, and most important of all, the third point, term limits. If you believe in these three precepts, the Constitution, it's a duty, honor, and a privilege, and three, term limits, you are a member of the Hogwash Party, and you can buy this bottle of hogwash, a bottle of truth. You can buy a bottle of truth. I'm going to give you the value of the truth. Until somebody puts a value on truth, it is either priceless or worthless. And the value of truth is $25 a bottle. And the way you know it's truth is everywhere you walk around with this bottle in your hand, you will be able to detect truth. This enhances your ability as a human being to detect truth. That's why I am so young. All my life, I've not had to worry about detecting truth. I know the truth. And if you hold a bottle of hogwash in your hand or use it on food, first of all, it is used on anything to enhance. It's like truth. Truth makes everything better. So as soon as you use it up, it's gone. And all you have left is hogwash. And it's a political weapon now. An empty bottle of hogwash is exactly what hogwash is. It is the empty truths of politicians. So send them a bottle and tell them this is a better grade of hogwash than you're selling me. And that's why I've formed the Hogwash Party. I want to take back America from the plutocrats.
That's what's up.
Nice.
That was
if only we could
oration,
send the
sir.
plutocrats to Pluto.
Sir, that was a feat of oration.
Well, God bless you for saying that. Again, when you are a philosopher, your stock and trades is ideas. And remember, you start with the idea, I think, therefore I am, and then you expand outward.
So term limits are a really important topic to everyone on this show right now. So
good. And me.
So before we get too far, I just want to say, Sherry, I do want to make sure you get your time too. I'm sorry if we just moved away from you. I don't want to be disrespectful. We're talking about some very heavy things. We do want to give you both time, and we have moved away from the initial framework. So Sherry, I don't want you to feel like bulldozed or anything before we proceed. So sorry to interrupt there. Let's continue the idea, but we should get back to the exchange between the two of you with the initial framework that Faye had set up before we get too far off on a tangent. So,
I mean, we could
continue.
deviate, talk about other things.
Sure. I just want to, I just want to speak up for Sherry to make sure
I'm a philosopher. I'll talk about anything.
Yes, I noticed.
By the way, guys, that barbecue sauce.
It's not a barbecue sauce. It is not. It is hogwash. It is in a class by itself.
I wish
you could put it on
Moto's-
ice cream.
We have Moto Motes occasionally comes on. He is just such a big barbecue fan, but I guess it doesn't matter if it's not a barbecue sauce. So just,
It's truth.
as you were, it
taste
doesn't matter.
well. Yes.
Do you take food stamps on that hogwash?
You're not the first one to ask, but you know what? The price of truth is immutable. It will always be $25 a bottle. So hold on to it and use it as an investment. You have an unopened bottle of the hogwash. It'll always be worth $25 to me. Like I said, there's a money back guarantee. If you've never opened up your bottle, and you need $25, you call me and I'll send you the $25 if I know you bought a bottle from me and you tell me it's unopened, and then I'll say, God bless you.
So,
what were we talking about? Yeah.
Term limits.
Term limits.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good thing. I'm generally for them. Yes. Term limits.
And you know what? I want to tell you, term limits not only on elected officials, but government jobs.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe. I mean, you think it would?
Maybe about it.
Hold on.
Every one of them should be term limit out. They should have their job for classification for 8 years and gone.
It's going to cause just more anxiety, isn't it? If the person at the DMV is just nervous about losing their job, it's not a positive motivator.
You know what? Government employment is. Here's what you've forgotten. And that's why you don't understand this, because you haven't read Plato Republic. Remember what I wrote back about? You have a plutocracy and you have a republic. Today, the DMV is a plutocracy.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm saying to you that a republic is run by people who have jobs in the republic because they're philosopher kings. They are beholden to no. I'm a philosopher king. Nobody owns me. When I work for you, I do it because I want the best possible outcome for you. If you pay me to do something, I want the best possible outcome. The problem that we have with plutocrats is they are owned not by us, the people, and we are not ruled by philosopher kings. We are ruled by plutocrats who owe their jobs to making the guy that pays them happy, not the people they interact with. That's why the DMV employee is a plutocrat, and that's why if you give him a guaranteed salary and a guaranteed position, he'll become a plutocrat.
So would you say elections for all government positions?
No, that's not what I was saying. No? It would, and here's the beautiful thing about my philosophy is, as soon as you know that you have an 8-year term, and this is true of all the politicians too. Watch the politicians. They're termed out. What do? They find another job similar to what they have and using their skill levels. And that's what's going to happen in the DMV. Every 8 years, they know if they haven't found another job somewhere else, they're gone. And they well should be, because they can't get promoted up. I'm not saying that we don't promote on merit. I'm just saying that if you stay in the same position for 8 years, it's time to go on.
Exactly. And then the plutocrats, Aaron, please. And then the plutocrats get their families into the same organization, and then it becomes a I'm not allowed to speak. I have a 5-year-old. And then
it's okay. It's a very common problem. Faye Koo is not here, but she has a 7-year-old, so it happens. I'm used to it.
So
don't worry about it.
So the plutocrats get their families involved in the same organization, and then instead of just one corrupt loser at the same desk for 30 years, you end up with a dynasty of corrupt losers in the same desk for 300 years.
I would submit to you that history says that you're absolutely wrong.
Well,
well, there's the Kennedy family, the Biden family, now the Trump
they're millionaires. You're talking about the 1%ers that rule the world, okay? I will tell you right now, throughout history, if you study history, you cannot help but go away with the idea, starting with the pharaohs, that 1% of the population rules 99% of the human beings, and most of them aren't even aware of the rulership. Okay, pharaohs were so out of reach of the normal human Egyptian, they didn't have any clue at all. And the same is true of you and I today with the 1%ers that run the world. Okay. They've been there forever. Now, let's suggest the Kennedys, the Bidens, all of those people. Those are plutocrats. It's true. They only work for government for what they can do. But they're in there playing a game. And again, we're not talking republic now. We're not talking plutocracy. We're talking power. Okay. When we talk about those people are in a class by themselves. Those are the ruling class of the world. Now, Biden's wannabe, and the Kennedys are finally starting to arrive. But, again, the real families are the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Krupps, the people throughout history, the families. Yeah. Those are the people that have run the world and continue to run the world today.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. And Sherry, you and I are kindred spirits. I want to applaud you.
Those are just the names I can think of at the time, especially being jumped by my little guy. Wait a minute, who's Kennedy? Yeah, that's a real good one. Real quick.
Yeah.
All right.
So, is this topic gonna go into UBI?
UBI? What's UBI?
Oh, did Faith? Oh, go ahead.
Rich, this is when I talk about universal basic income.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I was off on another area. See, when you're old, you can't remember all the acronyms that come up. But yeah, universal. I love one of my favorite. You know what? That movement has been going on in history since the caveman. And the more civilized we get, the easier it is to make the argument. And again, everybody wants to live without anxieties. That's the human condition. That goes back to Maslow's needs. The problem, of course, is that you see people that are super wealthy and you're saying, hey, I'm super poor. Why not just throw a little bit down here for me? Okay. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm 72 years old. No, I'm 2,500 years old. And the human condition has not changed one iota. There were people that were our age when I was a young man in Athens, Greece, saying just the very same thing. What they want to do is there will always be in history. And Karl Marx was absolutely right. Does anybody read Das Kapital? Okay. Anyway, here's the economic theory of history. The economic history that is the basis of communists is there's a thesis and there's the antithesis. Okay. The antithesis is the labor and the thesis is the capitalist. Okay. It is an economic conflict throughout history. And the object between it is to move wealth back and forth between these groups. All history is a result of the thesis and the antithesis coming together. There's a temporary melding together where either the thesis or the antithesis rules, the labor or capital takes over, and then it devolves again into a conflict of dividing wealth. The idea of dividing wealth throughout history has always been, and you're on one side or the other. So the fact of universal basic income is not going to work, not because the history behind it has never been successful. It's always the powerful, and you're begging the powerful to give them money, and they're not going to do it for you.
Right. So, is there have to be like a revolution would be pretty bloody or something like
you
that.
You want to go to the wall, hey, French Revolution. That's exactly what it was about. And Marie Antoinette so succinctly said it. She said, let them eat cake. And they said, all right, we'll take your operation from you. And they did. The people rose up. They guillotine worked 24 hours a day, killed them, everybody. What do we have today in France? Some sort of plutocracy. I mean, we have a government. It's a nice government. But what I'm trying to tell you is the idea of wealth distribution is not new. You're not going to be successful at it. And we could talk about it till the cows come home, and it's not going to change. So I'm just telling you from a historic standpoint, we can argue. And see, that's the beautiful thing about history and philosophy. You can listen to people today say things that were said in Athens 2,300 years ago. And I could explain it to you, but again, it would take, I could tell you about the allegory. You see, again, you need to have an education of where we are to understand why we're having the dialogue in America today that we're having. By the way, it's a healthy dialogue. I was down at the protest. I love everything that's going on in America today. And the one thing I'm absolutely sure of is that this virus is hogwash. And I shall call it that for the rest of my life. This is the hogwash virus. It was used by the 1%ers to seize control of America. And they thought by doing this, they'll get rid of Donald Trump. And they're wrong.
Yeah, I guess what you're talking about there is the big corporate the big transfer of wealth that was written into the legislation of the CARES Act. Am I correct in that?
Absolutely. And again, we can give, that's what governments do. Governments divide money. Okay. We formed governments and that's how we got our republic, to tell you the truth. If anybody who follows history realizes that when you're running a civilization, you don't care who the king is. King's a figurehead. The guy that runs the country is the guy who's, they call him the exchequer, the treasurer, the guy who's got the money. It's always about the money throughout history. And just like that, we all know, everybody who's listening to, they're all nodding in agreement. It's about the money. I don't have any and I want some.
The argument for UBI, I call it the monopoly argument. Like, the plutocracy says that as you're playing Monopoly, you start with 0 and you get 0 for going around go. And even those fun families who put $500 on free parking, nope, you get 0 for free parking. And try and play your game that way. You can't buy Baltic Flippin' Avenue when you start with 0 and you make 0 for going around go. UBI simply says that you start with 1,500 and you get 200 for going around go. And some cool families are allowed to put $500 bill on the free parking spot. It depends on whose house you're playing at on game night.
And again, you make value. Your points are tremendously valid about the system. The system as it's set up right now is not beneficial to you. Okay, we're all in agreement on that. So, and I say this to Faye too, and I say to both of you. Okay, life sucks. You make lemonade and you say to yourself, if the government gives me, if you wait for the money to come from the government so that you can get a better life, it ain't going to happen.
I'm trying to build my own. And right before you got in, when you were still on your way to the office, I was showing the folks that, like, when, hold on, Aaron, honey, I'll be right with you, I promise. But when we were being trafficked, I'm very artistic. And so the former owner had me making jewelry for him. And so when we got free, I had like $100 worth of supplies and inventory. And this is only a small little bit. This is my earring stash. When my car blew up
Sherry,
before
may I make one interjection, and then I'll go back. I think that's wonderful. I think you're onto something. You've got the idea of being a capitalist. You've invested. You have inventory. You're understanding the system. But I got an easier way for you to go. Once you make jewelry, making jewelry isn't enough. It's got to be selling. Okay. So here's my advice to you: sell hogwash. Every bottle of hogwash you sell for $25, and you're selling the truth. Every bottle of hogwash you sell for $25, I'll give you $10 for. I'm not lying. All you got to do is send them to richriel.com and say that Sherry sent me. I want a bottle of hogwash, and I will send Sherry $10. They buy $25 worth of hogwash from me. I'm going to give you $10. And you don't even have to work. All you got to do is go out and sell the truth. You say, hey, ladies and gentlemen, and tell them your story. And I'm here. I know what truth is worth now. Truth is worth $25 a bottle. And if you want to buy a bottle of truth, I'm selling the truth, and I'm selling it for $25. And if you never open it up, you got the truth with you, and you'll be able to detect truth. And if you make it empty, and when you have an empty bottle of hogwash, you have hogwash. I'm sorry, I got off. I'm sorry. I get so excited about things. I apologize to you, Sherry, please.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm actually, in getting out of the isolation hole and finding my people again, You know, it's like, gee, you're out of work. Do you want to sell jewelry? You could kick Avon's butt, you know, sell a $10 pair of earrings, keep a percentage, have a jewelry party, keep a commission, work for yourself instead of putting in all these job applications and being told how much you and your effort and your intelligence are worth. Work for you.
Yes.
I'm not going to be your boss. You're going to be a franchisee. I'm working for you. You sell 100 pairs of earrings. I'm working my butt off to make you some more. I work for you. Be your own boss. Don't be trying to get some job. Be the job. Work for you. Don't wait for some human to hand you down some, because some human is only going to hand you down some crap.
Yes. Yes.
My family's farmers.
Do it.
My great-grandfather was 17 years old when the Great Depression hit in 1929. He turned 17 21 days later, and this man was disabled since the age of 3. He couldn't move his elbow more than he got hit by a horse and buggy when he was 3 years old. So this man had 10 sisters, 1 brother, and he could lift his Pontiac 6000 up off its front bumper and pivot it around and put it on the jacks that he calculated with his 3rd grade education where to put the dang frame jack to change a tire on the car. And that was the day my great-grandfather's foot was discovered to be about as black as mine. He had diabetes. And so he had 1 leg and some flesh hanging off him, and he picked up his car and he moved it around. This man was 17 years old during the Great Depression. He's taking the cart of fruits and veggies up to town to go sell every day. He was a farmer. I'm an artist. These are my goats.
The thing about it though is so the people who are in debt or homeless or whatever, maybe they don't have a bank account because there's too many fees. Maybe their credit has tanked because they couldn't pay a couple bills, right? Then they can't get loans, and I know this from personal experience, right? And so I don't even have much of a starting ground to even create the vision of what I want as my own boss, right? And so there's no
$100 worth of jewelry and a couple of bags of stones a year and a half ago. I had jack squat. If I sold a $5 pair of earrings, I bought a $5 strand of stones, and a year and a half later, I've got $5,000 in my Etsy shop. Holy crap! How did that happen? Okay. You build up from nothing, but hey, that little bit of nothing is something you got. Instead of buying that $5 pack of cigarettes, get that $5 strand of stones. You got to drive. But
I applaud you. And that's what makes, that's the greatness of America. You are the greatness of America. Your story is what America's about. Life hasn't been good to you. You have, in spite of that which does not kill you makes you stronger. That was Nietzsche. And that's you. And that's the thing that, and Faye and all of you that are listening, that's the thing about the condition of life. We only have time. We trade time for experience and money. Okay. If you're not getting money, you're not getting paid for it, then you're experiencing. And either way, it's a valuable thing. As long as you can collect the currency of time, you are alive. And so it's what you do with your time. And that's why I'm telling you, man, you should concentrate on selling hogwash. I'm not lying to you. It's an easy sell. It's $15. It's going to cost $25 to whoever you sell it to. You don't have to inventory it or anything else. You just either drive them to the website or buy it call me up and say, hey, Rich, send me a bottle of hogwash. I'm going to pay you $15 for it. And that you send it to me, and I'll send it to you, and you give it to the guy for $25, or you email me. You don't have any inventory at all. And you are now dealing in the truth. And it dovetails nicely with your life. You could tell them, this is the truth. I'm telling you the truth. And when you are in the presence of hogwash, you're not listening to the truth, but I have the truth inside the hogwash. And that's where ultimately all lies come from, are from the truth. That's the funny part about it. You can't tell a lie without some truth in it.
So
you're awesome, man.
Yeah.
And I appreciate, when you're 2,300 years old or 2,500, you get old, you can't remember it, but you could stroke my ego back when I was running around in Athens, or you could stroke it today, and it's still a very pleasing thing. God bless you.
Socrates,
Yes.
go ahead, Ben.
No, go ahead, please.
I've heard that you've been out protesting some of the mandates that Governor Newsom has put in order. Just curious, what's your perspective on the mask mandate? How'd you feel about the lockdown? Where do you think the country's going to go between now and November in coronavirus prevention?
Oh, you really addressed one of the best issues of my lifetime. 2,500 years has finally brought me to San Diego, California, where we have a governor who's no, I'm not going to insult him. I'm not going to insult the governor of the state of California, because he's the governor and I'm just a philosopher. But I am going to deal in some truth with you. First of all, I'm going to refer to it as the hogwash virus, and I will refer to it for the rest of my life as the hogwash virus. And here's why it's the hogwash virus. Here's how it started, okay? And you say, in my other life as Rich Riel, and that's what I'm going to draw on this, my other life as Rich Riel, I graduated from a military college. It's called the Citadel. Okay. I graduated in the class of 69 from the Citadel. I turned down my commission to go into the military because I recognized that it was all hogwash, that the government didn't want me to volunteer to go to Vietnam because it was good for me. It was because it was good for their political reasons. And I said, not anymore, not going to do it. So anyway, I have access to a lot of information. So I'm going to tell you what I believe is true based on the information that I have. It was a weaponized virus in China. Okay, it got out of their labs by mistake. Okay, it is now spread out throughout the entire world. And one thing that we all know is that it attacks people, older people, old people who have health problems. And I'm going, wait a minute. When I was in Athens, we had diseases all the time that were attacking old people. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, he would talk about that. And you know what he said? He said the healthiest thing for a human being is to be outdoors. And if you told him to put on a mask, he would have laughed at you. Anybody who wears a mask who's healthy in the outdoors doesn't understand the concept of viruses. First of all, this virus is harmless. It is on the scale of deadly viruses. This is going to be, like I said, it's the hogwash virus. They told us how many people are dying. If you look at the CDC facts, the death rate peaked in April, okay? It continues to go down. But what's the major story? Not that the death rate is going down. No, there are more people being affected by this virus. And I will tell you, this virus is a very efficient virus. What it does is it doesn't kill its host. It mutates so everybody gets it, okay? And that's the way viruses, healthy people get the virus, it doesn't bother me. Okay, so what I'm telling you is that this is hogwash, and that that when we actually see the real numbers in about 6 months, and I'm announcing it first, I'm so sure that this is all going to go away that I'm announcing the Four Corners Hogwash Tour. I'm going to leave San Diego in a car, and I'm going to drive to the four corners of America just so I could say in my lifetime that I've been at Key West, in Maine. I've already been to Seattle, and of course I live in San Diego. But March 1st, I'm leaving on the Hogwash Tour. And there you have it, the hogwash virus and what I think about wearing masks in public.
All right.
But you didn't address the whole governor thing.
The governor? Should I talk about why the governor is doing this? I mean, let's identify why they're trying to make us masks. All right, we have again, you got two choices on who you're going to believe. You can either believe God or the government, okay? God says to you, you're going to die. God has already told us we're all going to die. We all recognize that. The government is telling us, hey, you do these things, you might not die, but you'll probably not die when you're supposed to die. So do what we tell you. So you got to decide who you want to believe, God or the government. And I got to tell you this way, government's got a lousy record when it comes to prolonging life of the public. So I don't believe anything the government tells me.
All right, so I'm so just trying to totally get where you're coming from. You specifically mentioned that nobody should be wearing a mask when they're outside.
No. I said healthy Healthy people should not. Sick people should wear a mask. I'm 100% behind. If you're sick, wear a mask. Then I can stay away from you because I'm healthy. I don't want to be with you. Sick people should be wearing masks public anywhere they go. They shouldn't even be outdoors. If you're sick, you got no business being out in public. Only healthy people should be in public. And so penalizing me as a healthy person to wear a mask, that's shame on you. There are more healthy people than there are sick people.
And just to follow up on that, just with the rate of, or at least the numbers that have been released regarding the rate of people that are asymptomatic that are still capable of transferring the virus, you still think that that should wearing masks should only apply to people that are known to potentially be sick?
Well, and again, you miss the science of all of this. Okay, first of all, they have now picked up. They thought they had, and I think that everybody did what they thought was going to happen. They thought this was a military virus and that it was going to continue mutating and it was going to get so deadly it would wipe out about. And let's identify what happens when we have a really deadly virus. 25%, 30% of the human race dies. But you can't kill the human race with any virus because there's so many of us and we all have immunity. So you get to a point where it's called herd immunity. The herd itself is so large, you can't kill it off. And in fact, I would tell you it's the most natural thing in the world for Mother Nature to take in and kill people when we aren't killing ourselves with wars. So here's what I'm trying to tell you is that wearing a mask for sick people and and you know what? The best thing that's going to come out of this is we're going to recognize that a hospital is for sick people and only sick people should be in hospital and families shouldn't be involved in being in hospitals. Well, there you go.
Well, thank you. Last thing I want to touch on, if and when a vaccine is available to the public, would you recommend people give one?
No, absolutely not. These are the same people that told me that cannabis has been deadly for the last 70 years. Boy, did I know that was a lie. I mean, as soon as they
save me from opiates.
That's pharma. You and I agree on this. Big pharma outlawed marijuana and cannabis products 70 years ago, and that's why they did it, because they couldn't sell aspirin. I mean, nobody needs aspirin when you got marijuana. I mean, got a headache? No problem. Give me a doobie.
Meanwhile, my son's never going to see me snort a Vicodin because I can't afford my month's supply.
There you go.
He's never going to, totally see me high, man, because, the CBD pot, man, it produces, low THC. So it's very non-psychoactive. I get my medication without getting a buzz on it. It's like, dude, why the hell wasn't I here 20 years ago?
Big pharma.
Mm-hmm.
Big pharma. You and I know it. The one percenters.
How does one even tackle big pharma, though? How do you even combat something so powerful like that?
You don't. You can't.
You expose the hogwash.
Yeah, and that's true. That she's got it. There you go. You got it. Send them a bottle of hogwash. Write letters. Protest. You got it. Oh, I sold somebody some hogwash now. She's thinking about it. Believe me. And I'm telling you, I'm on to something. You join the hogwash party. What state are you in? Sherry, what state are you in?
I'm in Colorado right now. I'm from South Canada, Wisconsin.
Okay, are you an American citizen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Then you can start the hogwash party in Colorado. I mean, don't think I started it in California. The first hogwash party, the home of the hogwash party is San Diego, and I'll always be proud of that. But I don't see I'm going to live to be 130. Well, I'm going to live forever. I have been living as Socrates. I've been living forever. I'm going to live a long time, and I'm going to make the hogwash party work. And when I die, there's going to be a hogwash candidate running for president.
Yeah, we do need more than a two-party system. It's like that episode of South Park. I don't know if you saw, they were voting for a school mascot and they were pranking the ballot. So we ended up with the choice between a giant douche and a turd sandwich. That's what we have every single election.
See, and again, what we have in America now, and here, this is Socrates speaking. 2,500 years, whether it was back in Athens or today, what we have here is a crisis of leadership. The plutocracy has taken over. The plutocrats, and it's term limits. That's why I'm telling you, term limits. And that's what makes the hogwash party so important is there are only three things in the hogwash party. You can believe anything you want about the power of women's bodies. You could believe Black Lives Matter in the hogwash party. You can believe anything you want. All you got to believe, though, is term limits. Term limits, the Constitution, and it's a duty, honor, and a privilege. And that's how we pick our candidates. You use that to pick your candidates, and we will change. And that's why I call this a revolution. This is a hogwash revolution. And it's a revolution because I'm taking you back to ideas that were created for your republic that 200 years ago became a reality. I can't tell you how much I love America because America is the reality of my dreams from 2,500 years ago. I wrote about America 2,500 years ago, and today it's here. We're living the dream, boys. We're living the life.
But we might be living the dream, but most of our population has no nourishment, right?
No, that's not true. Nobody starves to death in America. I've already told you that.
I don't mean physical nourishment. Oh. I mean like nourishment of life, right? Like
no, what you want is money, quality of life. You want a better quality of life. That's what you want.
So the reason though for term limits and recall is like because you have all your basic needs met and it becomes like a career politician and you don't even want to enter back into the normal world because I mean you haven't even fixed the problems usually.
That's
right?
Why we need term limits.
So like
give somebody else a shot at it.
I think we need like people who can help train better and maybe change the metrics that we measure.
What we need to do is better education. You and everybody on this line, I love you all. And believe me, I am not trying to act like a snob or an intellectual snob or anything else. But I am going to tell you that the truth of the world is in the history and philosophy. If you study history and philosophy, you'll understand everything. In the meantime, you're living.
That's the thing. We're not educated. We're propagandized.
Yes, absolutely. You're searching for the truth. That's what makes it such an interesting journey for all of us. We know, and here's why you guys are better off than we were 2,500 years ago. You guys all have your basic needs met. We're on this really cool thing, this internet, talking to each other and philosophizing. We aren't worried about somebody breaking into our house at night, cutting our throats and leaving our children dead and wounded in the streets. We have now arrived at a point where we can discuss intelligently where we as a race should go. We have no power, but at least we get to discuss it. We get to be part of the discussion. And we now know how to fight it with truth. And the only way we're ever going to find truth is, I am so disappointed because I used to hold the written word in such high esteem. But in the last 100 years, the written word is hogwash now. It is not written for what is truth. It is written for what will sell. And it is the commercialization of truth. That's why we have media. That's why we have pop culture. And you know what? It's not a bad thing. From a philosophical standpoint, I got to tell you, us having cultural wars is a hell of a lot better than us going over and sacking Troy and raping their women.
We definitely have domesticated the human species to a capacity that's a little better than, our forefathers for sure. I mean, we're not.
Women are no longer chattel. I mean, for most of the history of the world, women were considered chattel. The most revolutionary thing that I can see as far as the battle of the sexes is that women won equality about 100 years ago. Up until that time, historically, women were chattel. They were slaves. And again, it signals a major turning point in the history of the world.
Remember the dowry. That was your dad paying your husband to please take you out of his house so he don't have to support you anymore. Here's some money. Take my daughter. Yeah.
And isn't it strange that every culture of no, that's not true. The majority of cultures all have the same policy, that women were held in low regard because they were breeders. And I'm going to explain to you so you understand why. I'm not going to say it's right, but I'm going to understand the difference between a male sex. There are only two sexes. I don't care what anybody says. There are only two sexes in the world. There is male and female. Males live in the moment. Females live in a lifetime because they're responsible for the human race. They carry and children. Men, they don't know nothing about childbirth. They know nothing about the pain that women suffer. They just create the kids and move on. And that's the difference between, and that's why the subtle change, now we recognize the more important of the two. The human race needed men to kill each other because we were all raping all the women and everything else. And they needed to kill so we could have food. Okay, we don't no longer need that. Men are going to be and it used to be that women were dying way before men. Now the other way has occurred. Women live longer, they're healthier, there will be less men in the world. And
so I want to pause. I don't necessarily agree with something you said about men and women per se, like the binary, because I believe it's more of a chemical mindset that is created to be a little more feminine mindset versus male mindset. I think like you could be in a body that didn't develop.
Faye, let me make it easy for you. What you said to me is, hey, Rich, there are some people that have a different mindset than you. And I said, I agree with that. Okay, I'm going to give you the cosmic secret, and you've heard this before, but this is the cosmic secret of the universe, okay? There are two kinds of people in the world, those who divide the world into two kinds of people and those who don't. Okay, there are two kinds of people in the world, those who believe that in your mind that you can be different sexes and those who don't. My feeling is biologically, there are only males and there are only females. That's a given fact. Now, mentally, where we are in our mind, that's a different thing. And I can tell you right now that I don't have a lock on what male ID or female ID is, but as far as the gene pool goes and the creation of the human race, you got a male, you got a female, and that males are losing out to the females, and that's a good thing because male are more hostile and aggressive, and that's in our nature, so we could protect the race, and I don't think we need that anymore.
Well, we're starting to reject the notion of rigid gender roles. Like the first boy I dated, his dad was a phenomenal cook. Women belong in the kitchen. So like, this was a boomer who's a great chef. How many chefs are men? I mean, seriously. And I mean, how many women
historically,
have
mostly it was men. Historically. It's
right.
only a recent phenomena.
But like the rules are starting to change. And that's what, I personally believe is why people are like, oh, I'm going to go get my gender changed because like, not all of us are lumberjacks and that's okay. Some of us, I'm sorry, the Monty Python lumberjack song. But,
wait, okay. I want Socrates, you saying that like UBI is universal basic income is a good idea, but they'll never want to give it to us. But then they gave us that stimulus check. And these extended employment
this
benefits.
happens all the time. When the government wants to make people happy, give away money. Historically, it's a great idea. But here's the thing you gotta realize: it's all an illusion. Okay, the money is an illusion. It keeps you in control.
Right.
It's monopoly money.
Exactly true. We believe it has value, and that's why everybody's talking, oh, it's going to be a civil war again. You guys haven't got a clue what a civil war is like. You don't understand. And, everybody has, and the other lie that just bothers, and I'm laughing. Remember, I'm going to tell you all this is going to blow up. The other lie about Black Lives Matter and this stuff about the Civil War being fought over slavery. What hogwash. The Civil War was fought over states' rights. Anybody who's a historian knows that to be true. We got a bunch of fake historians running around saying, oh, it's about slavery. Well, that's the value of public education. You don't get what's right or true. You get what is politically correct. And politically correct and true, that's the beautiful thing about the truth. The truth is easily found because the truth never changes. Time proves what is true. Okay. Today, and again, here's a perfect example of telling a lie. For 70 years, they told us a lie that marijuana is dangerous, that cannabis is dangerous. They told us the lie. But the truth of the matter is we all know as human beings, It is not true. And more human beings recognizing it was true. 70 years later, we are where we are today. So the truth always wins over time. It is a lie that only looks like the truth for a short period of time.
Yeah, but the thing is that you're right that like all this money is imaginary, but the day that, you know, I go to a store or try to buy a TV with like a bar of gold, I'm pretty sure they're not going to accept that bar of gold as payment.
No, they're not. And again, you missed the point. Economics, the evolution of economics is an ongoing process. You know, it's old. Barter system is where you start. And we all know that a barter system is inefficient for a worldwide economy and for wealth. And that's what this is all about. The 1%ers were always looking for better ways to transfer their wealth so they could keep it away from the poor people. And in fact, you guys, I don't know how many of you know about Bitcoins, but Bitcoins is the latest scam that's being run by the wealthy people so they can hide their money. But for us to talk about basic, you know, it's an illusion. It's like this distraction. The virus. The virus is a distraction. They took away. They proved to me something that, as a philosopher, I would have 100 days ago, if you came to me and said to me, you know, America is going to shut down and you'll never be able to go to church again and you won't be able to assemble in large crowds, I would have said, never going to happen. This is my republic. I mean, that was one of the tenets of the republic: freedom of religion, freedom to assemble. Those are such basic human rights. They'll never take that away in America. And look what they did with this hogwash virus. It's 1% control, and they're jerking our chain. And you know, Kevin Newsom, he's the overseer of the ferals.
Kevin or Gavin?
Gavin, I'm sorry, Gavin Newsom. I have a Kevin Faulkner. He's a mayor here in San Diego, and he's sold out too. They're all plutocrats. They're all for sale.
You know, if I could speak freely about the whole mask thing and everything, like we studied the 1918 Spanish flu in biology class, and like everybody was wearing rags and scarves and miscellaneous fabric over their face, and it was proven to be completely non-effective 100 years ago. However, like you know, now say like, okay, the 80s, 90s, we'd all get together at grandma's for Christmas, and like it was the 80s, because like we never knew if Uncle Keith had a cold or
that's right, or a habit, a cold or a habit. Well done, Sherry. I like that. See, us old people, we recognize that stuff.
Well, see, I was 4 years old at the time, and I was the only one who could keep up with Uncle Keith, because all the other old fuddy-duddy grown-ups didn't want to play, and Uncle Keith was always down. But at the same time, like, nobody was ever like sick other than Uncle Keith's little sniffle problem. But every New Year's, Grandpa was in the hospital for pneumonia again. Every single year, like clockwork. We get together for Christmas, nobody's sick except for, and by New Year's, Grandpa's in the hospital again. So when this bug started going around and we realized it's not just a flu cold and like it's the next $100-year bug, I mean, you know, I'm all for precautions. Like even before all this, I was making jokes about Howie Mandel might be my dad because like I don't shake hands, you know. So it's cool to be a germaphobe now. It's cool to be agoraphobic. I'm afraid of humans. Humans are scary. You know, like I was telling the folks, I got jumped by the Bloods last weekend. That's the worst I got. You know, I mean, this is gang turf in my apartment complex. I'm afraid to leave anyway. So, okay, Corona says stay in your house. Okay, cool. I have an excuse. F you, I'm home. I'm watching Hulu. Good with it. I'm not being controlled. I'm just blending. I'm chill. I'm home.
And the people that run the world, the 1%ers, have got us all in our cells. They're happy. And you know, the rich, and they're old and they're rich, and they're all saying, now I can go to restaurants because everybody is going to be looking out for me. And I'm going, I'm sorry. That's the one thing that's not going to happen in America, because we're going to come out in America. The rest of the world is going to start wearing masks. And you know, travel restrictions are going to get even more onerous. You can't travel on an airplane without wearing a mask, and they'll take your temperature. And you know what? Maybe that's not a bad thing. But you know, if you had read 1984, that's what they said in 1984. The book, George Orwell was prophetic about the way the government would change what it was telling us as human beings. And I can tell you, just from the perspective of history, George Orwell was dead on about government and about them controlling every aspect of our lives, or attempting to.
Right. It's all about that control factor. That's what I was gonna get into, is like the two-party system and being stuck with the giant douche or a turd sandwich. I mean, but before hearing about Andrew Yang, my friend who duct taped my last leg together, that's a good friend who your friend will get you a roll of duct tape. A good friend will help you put your foot back together.
Amen.
This friend told me about Andrew Yang, and I happen to think that Make America Think Harder is far superior to Made America Genocidal or Again Bigly, Made a Generation Accelerate Backwards.
Well,
so
wait a minute, Sherry, I got a question for you.
But before
Sherry,
being almost done.
I got a question for you before you're done, because I want you to go back. But the question is to it. Okay. If the presidential election was held tomorrow and the two candidates are Biden and Trump, who are you going to vote for?
Oh, man.
I know it sucks, doesn't it?
I'm not voting for Trump because Massa voted for Trump and threw my ballot away and wouldn't even let me vote for Joe Schmo in 2016. But I tell you what, man, I gotta vote for Biden because I'm not voting for Trump. But man, before being introduced to Yanggang, my best option was y'all heard of the Vermin Supreme. I can be hippie deluxe. Before being introduced to Yanggang, I mean, the Freak Out the Squares party was the best thing I was looking at before Andrew Yang. I'll tell you that right now.
And I'm going to vote for, Howie Hawkins, the Green Party.
Well, there's a vote for Trump.
Whatever you say, man.
and again, as a Republican, a man of the Republic, not a Republican. That's why I quit the Republican Party. I got to tell you something. The Republican Party, when it was started by Abraham Lincoln, and the Republican Party up until it got hijacked in the 80s, stood for women's rights, stood for minority rights. I mean, it is such an insane change for everybody to sit there and look at and make Republicans out to be the bad guys. But now the party, again, it's a party politician, and it's the problem with America. We got a choice between two leaders. Both of them are poor, but the poorer of the two is Biden.
I think there's a very good case to be made for that. Biden is the head of something big and terrible, where Trump is kind of just his own little monster, right?
True story. That. See, you have really, that's a brilliant analysis.
Thanks,
okay?
man.
You got
giving
hell
every
on
time. Every
hell
week
on one
it,
side, and got paradise or purgatory. You got hell and purgatory.
There's not a good choice, right?
Right.
But
We're
it's
all in
better.
agreement.
Look, if
We're
I'm
all in
going,
agreement on that.
so if you're saying I'm going to vote for Trump, if you're saying Trump, if you're saying that Howie Hawkins is a vote for Trump, I'm okay with a Trump vote via Howie Hawkins, because that means something else than a Trump vote via Trump.
You should join a hogwash party.
I don't care. I just don't want to give the Democrats the ability to say, you see, you voted for us, we must be representing what you want. We're doing what he wants. He wants us to be more moderate, because they make up the story on the news about why each demographic votes the way they do, and it's a lie. Of course, you know that. And I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to vote for one of the major parties and let the story be told that I was represented and I was satisfied with them. That's why I voted for them. It must be, right? So I think protest votes are a good thing to do right now.
It becomes consent. You consented to the representative.
It's a protest against manufactured consent. Thank you for that. That was the rhetorical term I was looking for.
All right. Well, let me make a point to you then. Okay.
Yeah.
think about this when you make your vote. Okay, I would tell you it's a test. And when you look at your candidate, ask your candidate, will he protect and defend the Constitution? Usually they all will. And the next question is, does he see it as an honor and a privilege? And usually they all will. But the third test, the acid test that I ask you to apply, is will they support term limits? And I think when you ask yourself those three questions on any candidate, you can arrive at who the best candidate is. That's my point to you. And if you ask, and if you're looking at your vote and you're going to vote for the guy that you're proposing, ask yourself, does he support term limits?
Right in Andrew Yang, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what?
Right,
I was pulling for Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
I think of all the Democratic candidates you guys fielded, that he was the best. I really do. I'm sad you didn't make it, but then again, I understand the Democratic Party is closer to the 1%ers. But of course, the Republican Party are made up the 1%ers too. They've got both sides covered. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat.
Both sides by
Yeah,
the
they do.
balls.
That's the problem. They got both
Choice
sides covered, so
voting.
you can't go with either.
Yeah, well, we can make it harder for them by making term limits, because then they have to buy them every 8 years.
But did you notice that how Yang was ignored? And I don't know if this has happened through history, but they spelled his name wrong. They left him out of graphics. They told his name wrong. And I doubt all of that is just a coincidence. It was all
right. First of all, let's identify, you're right. Throughout history, it's the same way. Ideas from fringe candidates are always that. They perceive them as fringe people, and therefore, if you give credence to their ideas, you yourself are part of the fringe. But you see, all the great ideas have always come from from people like Andrew Yang, people who are visionaries. And that's why I am so happy to come out of the closet as Socrates and tell you, ideas are more powerful than anything else in the world. An idea is worth 1,000 guns. Stalin said it best. We don't allow them to have guns. We certainly don't want them to have ideas. Right. Ideas are powerful. And the fact that you are being made fun of only, and you know it's true, only means that eventually you're going to win, because the truth over a long period of time always outs.
Right.
Yeah. We are kindred spirits, Socrates, because you're talking about ancient Athens. And like I have knowledge of like an ancient Asian culture, I think around by Tuvalu. It was like an island nation off the mainland, Southeast Asia and there. And they, as a culture, the tribal elders, instead of marrying an elite member of the tribe, they would go abroad and meet someone from another tribe, another culture, another part of the world, and share culture, share wisdom, share ideas. It was a one world, one tribe mentality. There was no like, we're better than you, we're going to war with our neighbors, we deserve this land more than you do. It was a one world, one family, learn from each other, bring each other's wisdom to your family, share yours with theirs.
Did women have equality?
There were chiefesses from time to time.
Well, there you go.
And I could go into details, but I'd rather not go public with details. But I know of a chiefess in particular who was very historically significant to this tribe. And she had a female bodyguard. Like, the Shaolin monks, the whole like, oh, we'll defend the emperor, but we'll hang out at the temple thing.
Right.
She had, her bodyguard was the head chiefess of the tribe. So, the men were the defenders, but they weren't in charge. Not
well, Catherine the Great.
Being masculine didn't put you in charge. It was your personal merits.
Well, history tells us Catherine the Great she was the czar who ran Russia. I mean, right. she slept with her entire security force. What better way to ensure their loyalty? Hey, I'm not kidding you. I mean, and in fact, that's why Greek armies, why do you think you slept? Greeks were famous when they were out in war, sleeping with their buddies. And that's clearly because you will die for your lover. You will fight harder and longer and more ferociously for your lover than you will for an idea.
Yep. Oh, mom moment.
So, okay, we've covered a lot of different topics here. It's kind of like, we got
See, I have an opinion on everything.
yeah, we got a little everything. So how do you feel about ranked choice voting? Okay, and that kind of thing. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
As a philosopher, how can you not appreciate choices? I mean, ranked choice voting is a time whose ideas come. I mean, we are evolving. We are constantly evolving in our republic. And the whole idea behind the republic is one vote, one man. That's ultimately, and in fact, interestingly enough, if you go back to Karl Marx's dialectic theory of history, and he predicts what's going to happen. He says, ultimately, the state will wither away. And the idea is that we will live in communities, neighborhoods, where we will all vote on how we run our neighborhoods. That was their nirvana, or the end game of history, as far as Karl Marx was thought of it. And as we evolved toward the republic, and we had a republic, and we still basically have a republic. It's just undergoing a change.
I think I don't know, if Yang was a little more aggressive, he would have got somewhere. But he let people
Yang was at a time in history where he wasn't going to make a difference. Ideas are great. I say that because the one percenters who run the world are not going to give a guy like Yang a shot at leadership. Not going to happen. And the fact that we have good ideas is not enough to break the power of the one percenter. We are not at that point in the history of humanity that it's going to happen. It might happen in the future, but it sure is not going to happen in our lifetimes, your lifetimes.
So what if it inspires a nation to stand up against the one percenters? And it inspires people in other countries. I mean, we've had people from UK to Canada on here, world, fighting for something very similar. And Andrew Yang and Scott Santens has been two of the biggest movers.
Did he win?
Forward on.
He's in the dustbin of history. He lost.
But I lost 2020, but he's not dead.
His ideas inspired a whole nation.
His ideas are still, and again, that's the beauty of being alive in a republic. If you lose in an election, they don't haul you off to the gulag. They don't cut your throat. You get to sit there and preach your ideas and say every day, see, I'm right. The longer your ideas are right, the more powerful they become.
So it's just a matter of time. But
amen, brother.
But why do you think so much time?
Because I've 2,500 years. I'm old, and I'm telling you right now that you don't have the same sense of time that I have, because you are young. And I used to hate it. I got to tell you, I was in your shoes. I used to hear some old fart tell me the same thing. Oh God, when you get to be my age, you'll understand. And I used to say, fuck you, in the back of my mind. But then as I got older, I remembered something that changed. My perspective started to change. I said, look, that guy got there because he's way older than you. So when he says something, it's based on something that he's traded his time for, which is experience. And he says, wisdom cannot be taught. It can only be experienced.
Yes, but we have a whole worldwide impact from a couple things, right? First, we had this coronavirus reaction from the whole world.
The hogwash virus, yes.
Okay, yes. And then we had the whole world experience the fallout of what that did, right? And then you add on top of that the Black Lives Matter, that is also worldwide, right? So you have a
So the media
world,
would have you believe.
but like you have a whole world. I mean, I have friends in other countries. I talk to them. It's not like I'm asking other people from the source, just civilians. But anyway.
Okay. And again, I've seen this. I mean, I can tell you about the 60s. I can tell you about the freedom marches for Selma, Alabama. I could tell you about what was going on in San Diego in 1969, 1970.
But they weren't paired together. they weren't paired together like it is this time. I think we have had this giant, we were already on the edge of collapse, right? Imagine that. We were, right? And now that we've like really put some like spotlights on these problem areas, we have people speaking up and showing their camera footage of what like they caught, you know, and having multiple witnesses to multiple events all around the world. And like even the president of Canada was like, you know,
All right.
like
Let me put it in perspective for you, okay? Let's think about child molesters and priests, okay? There are, you know, thousands and millions of priests. There are probably thousands of child molesting priests, okay? You're telling me that the police have been violent and they've made terrible mistakes, and I agree with you 100%. You know, I'm not going to defend the police, and I would tell you this, one of the things that will change in the Republic is the real, and again, term limits in the police department would make a lot of difference. You know, when you think about it, being a police officer for longer than 8 years is too much to ask of any human being. And again, good ideas, but I'm telling you right now, they will not be implemented. And here's my point to you is, having looked at history, having lived through these events, I will tell you that what you think about now and what you think about when we take the hogwash tour on March 1st will be two different realities.
Just because you mentioned child molestation, and earlier we were speaking about sex trafficking, what was your take on the whole Epstein situation and his death in jail, and now the arrest of Ghislaine?
Oh God, yes! What a perfect example of the one percenters taking care of the problems. I mean, it shows you what a sham it is that we have a government. And in fact, Giselle, here's the prediction on Giselle. She's going to keep dummying up, and if she starts to make any kind of noise at all, she's going to die. You know, Epstein was one of the one percenters. I mean, he didn't care what the law was, and his particular predication was trafficking in young women. Young women and boys have, you know, again, I'm sure there's a Jeffrey Epstein for boys too. I mean, these people exist. They have super mega bucks. They have markets like the Clintons. They have all the one percenters that they cater to. Okay, you and I are just down on the lower end of the food chain. And Epstein is a perfect example of what happened. And you watch Giselle, whatever her name is, she ain't going to make it much longer either.
So if you were going to name names or speculate some names that were involved with this whole operation, who do you think was
I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that Clinton and major Democrats, but you know what? I don't think Trump was involved. I know everybody seems to want to believe it, but you know, my belief about it is if Trump had done anything that they had a picture of that they could prove, the one percenters would have used it, because Trump is a wild card. Trump was not supposed to get elected. Hillary was supposed to get elected. The one percenters had America in their palm. They had ruined the republic. And that's the thing about being, you know, as a philosopher, I love this.
I just mean that. I think that just means he had more leverage. I think that's all that means.
No. He had nothing. The one percenters had the fix in. No, she outspent him. Here's the clue. 90% of all elections in America, the person that spends the most money wins. That's 90. I think it's as high as 95%, but I always use 90%. 90% of all elections are determined by money. End of story. And remember, this is a republic. Okay. She outspent him 10-1. The media was 100% in her corner. The whole thing is that he had ideas, that he had the internet, and that was the one thing he could communicate to America, was that there's something wrong with the leadership, and if you vote for Hillary Clinton, you're going to get more of the same. And he ran against Hillary Clinton. He painted her out to be the arch enemy of America, and he won.
Do you think he's delivered on his promise?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing that I find amazing about Trump. If you go into history, all the politicians, all the people that ran for president of the United States since the state of Israel was formed in 1948. 1948. That's a long time ago. Okay. Since 1948, every American president running for president of the United States has promised the Jewish community that they would make Jerusalem, that they would recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And until Trump came along, every one of them made the promise and got elected. That means Kennedy, that's Bush, that's Reagan, all of them. Every one of them got into office and listened to what the State Department said and told them it was a bad idea and they shouldn't do it. And they all, for a man, did it. And part of the reason, I think, has to do with God and biblical prophecy, but that's another story for a philosophy.
Revelation. I'm on board.
There you go. But at any rate, Trump becomes president of the United States, makes all kinds of promises, and made the same promise that everybody else made. If he's president, he'll recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and he did. What an amazing promise he kept. If he kept no other promise, historically, that's an amazing promise. But here, that wasn't the only promise he made. He told us he would get the economy up and running, and 3 years later, I have never seen the American economy in 200 years of history that is on par with what Trump did. I mean, everybody in America was working down. And here's something, a historical fact that nobody's talking about, but go back in history. Anytime you have your population working, crime goes down. Historically, that's as accurate a statement as I'll ever make. Everybody working, they don't got time for crime. You know, they're happy. They're bringing in money. They're feeding their kids. The only time you have crime is when you have high unemployment. Trump destroyed. He put everybody to work, the blacks, the Hispanic, historic unemployment, and then this virus broke out. Oh, God, was that a change in America? But I digress.
But still, people were barely able to afford a $500, emergency. People are still getting eviction notices if they're.
Are they starving to death?
On their rent.
Are they starving to death? Are there mass people out in the street?
I recognize that we can feed our population. I recognize this, but we're not taking care of them.
Wait a minute. That's not true. 200 years later.
Not the homeless people. Not
Jesus Christ told me this too. Well, again, as a philosopher, I've been watching all of them. Remember, I was born before Jesus Christ showed up. Jesus Christ said it, and he was right then, and that was 2,000 years ago, and he's right today. The poor will be with us until the end of time. There will always be poor. There is nothing you can do to stop it. And we know the homeless population, there's a certain part of the homeless population, no matter what, short of throwing them into a jail and calling it a psychiatric home, will be crazy and will be poor and will be out on the street.
Well, yes, but we aren't taking care of the mentally ill that need the extra help.
Hell, we got all kinds of problems. They aren't taking care of you. That's what you ought to say is they aren't taking care of me. Okay. Worry about yourself before you worry about the homeless. That's my advice to you.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm only reporting what I've heard.
And I'm telling you the truth.
And what I've seen with my eyes.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, if we actually laid a correct foundation to take care of these people in our society, they can still be homeless. It's fine, but they're withering.
We have the correct foundation. We have the Republic. The Republic is making life better for every poor. Better to be poor in America than anywhere else in the world. That's my point to you. In the lottery of life, if you're going to be poor,
that is absolutely ridiculous.
What do you mean?
We have
that's
very
ridiculous?
Poor social services in America for poor people. That's the whole. A lot of what we talk
would you
about
rather
why we
be
need
poor?
a basic
Let me
income.
ask this: would you rather be poor in Britain or in the United States?
Britain, for sure, absolutely, no question.
Then you should go there.
No, they don't just let you be a citizen. That doesn't work that way. It doesn't work
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As a philosopher, again, I just was comparing what we have as a republic to what we have. And I made the statement that what better to be poor in America than anywhere else. And you have pointed out to me, well, I want to be poor in Britain, but I can't go there. So it's easy to say, I'd rather be poor in Britain, but I'm poor here in America.
So I can't draw on any data. I have to have been there or else my ideas are completely moot.
And again, I think therefore I am. And that's why I have this argument with Plato all the time. We used to talk about the truth being relative. And he says how easy it is if the truth is relative. And I said the truth is relative to every individual themselves. We are all isolated. I think, therefore I am. I love Descartes. When Descartes came onto the word and he articulated that idea, it really put into a nutshell what we all live in. We all live in an isolation that we have broken out with words, feelings, expressions, and our senses. We depend on our senses, and that's why the Matrix was so interesting.
So you will agree that it is better to be poor in Britain than America. So you will yield that point.
I have no idea. You were asking me about experience. My belief is that it's better to be poor in America than it is Britain.
Why,
but I have no,
though? I mean, you seem to just rely on dogma for that.
No, I say that in America, I'm familiar with the poor in America. I see them all the time in America. I am not familiar with the poor in England.
So how can you make that statement if you're not familiar with the poor in England? It's a comparative statement, and you're not familiar with one of the things you're comparing, England to America. You don't know. You're saying you're ignorant of England, but you're happy to make the statement that it's better to be poor in America. That doesn't.
I know it's a bad idea to jump off a bridge because it's a short-term experiment. I know from empirical evidence that it's a bad idea to jump off the bridge. And I'm saying from empirical evidence, it appears to me that it is better to be poor in America than poor in England. And based on, remember something about truth and about the reality and perception of truth. I depend upon what I read. And I have now come to the conclusion that 90% of what I read is so slanted by the people that are reading it, I need to understand what their bias is to find what the real truth is and what they write.
So, with a question after you, Faye.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say, like, I think the reason we're poor, though, is because of corruption and people like swindling a lot of people. I was just talking to a car salesman who's no longer a car salesman, who was able to like make someone pay ridiculous amount over, right? And so if you're clever enough to swindle somebody, you're allowed to pocket that money, right?
But swindle, he didn't swindle, he was a salesman. How can you call him a swindler? He was a salesman.
I think the thing is, like, there's a level of crossing an ethical boundary. Sure, he exploited someone who had a bunch of money, but he was telling me how he hypnotized them during the process.
He's bragging to you that he swindled somebody. Is that what you're saying? He wasn't a salesman, that he was swindling people?
He felt very like he did it twice to two people where he got a lot of money out of them, and then eventually started feeling not good about this decision, right? And like it changed his future. He's changing his trajectory. He's not selling, he's stealing. But like what I'm saying is, we have people stealing everywhere. We have banks stealing. We have like all these other big businesses, shell companies.
And your point is that's gone on. That's the reality of the human race. I mean, that hasn't changed. That's
but we don't have any safety net for being swindled. We have no safety net for being swindled. We never
had a safety net for being swindled. It has always been somebody will prey on you. In any country, any time, any history.
Well,
you can't tell me a society there weren't people stealing from each other.
I'm saying we need this caution to be created so that if we are swindled, our whole livelihoods aren't taken from us. And that's
are you going to look to the government to take care of you so you don't get swindled? No.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, I can find like help from other people financially that I care about, and I know directly where the money came from, right? But like, I'm able to meet that need, but not everyone has these like safety nets of, friends and family. And maybe that's like, of course that's on us, right? But like, if we could help educate people, at a younger age on how to survive in this life and actually have kind of like a walkthrough, because we don't, especially dodging all this corruption that's around us. And like, I feel like the things that shouldn't be corrupted have wrong incentives right now. And like, we don't incentivize.
So you have an opinion that the leadership has done a poor job and you want to change it.
Yes. Yeah.
There you go.
Of course.
Well, you live in a republic where you can do it. We dream of making change. That's the whole idea behind a republic. Make change. You are free to make changes. And if you think that the government, if you can make changes in the government using the government, it's not going to happen.
but like the Scandinavian countries have a much higher like happiness quotient than we do.
Oh, I love that. The happiness quotient. Yeah, what hogwash.
No, it's the truth. Like they
No,
do these surveys, and that's because they have like certain levels of support from their leaders.
okay.
And
Okay, let me respond to the happiness. And you know what? I love the fact that we are now measuring happiness. It goes back to my philosophy about, I started philosophy and I just love to see how we're going into truth, happiness, and the rest of the good stuff. And it goes back to us as human beings, okay? Our perceptions of reality, okay? You and I are dependent upon everything that we read. So when we read somebody has put together a survey, that measures and we read about it. Oh, wow, that's really good. I like that. That makes sense to me. I like that. I can deal with that. Okay. So as a human being, I'm now evaluating my senses, the stuff that come into my senses, and I'm saying it must be true. Okay. And so you believe in the happiness quotient, and I'm sitting there being a little bit of a skeptic. And I'm going to use the cave of, again, it goes back to Plato's book, The Republic, and it is one of the dialogues. I use an allegory, and it's called the allegory of the cave. And it's true then, 2,500 years, as it is today. Okay. I supposed that you lived in a cave all of your life and that you were chained up in a chair looking at the wall of the cave, and all the light came in from the sun, but you couldn't see the sun. And at night, because there was a village and people out there, they would then put fires. So all you could see as you were faced against the walls, you could see the shadows. So you saw these shadow people 24 hours a day. You have lived your entire environment living into the chained in and looking out here. One of your own escapes, goes outside and sees that there's an entire life. All the people that are walking, those are shadows. There's a life, there's light, there's work, everything outside of where we are inside the cave. He goes back in and tells everybody in the cave, nobody believes him because the only experience they've had are the shadows, and they refuse to believe it.
Yeah, well, that's life in the United States. Like,
there you go.
You're in the cave, but I finally got out of the cave. I traveled to New Zealand and Australia and Sweden, and I
found
saw
the truth.
People. Yeah, exactly. I saw.
And God bless you. I am so happy to know somebody who knows the truth.
Right. Yeah. And the truth is that they were right. They were happier than us.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Truth is subjective, and that was my point to Plato. Is truth is subjective to the human being experiencing it. So your truth and my truth might be diametrically opposed, but they are not. Just because you and I don't believe it or believe it, that doesn't make it true.
Yeah, but the thing is that I saw it with my own two eyes, and
I don't dispute that.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that like I can, like, over there they have like places you can walk and like architecture and like a town square, and then here is just a bunch of like freeways and empty parking lots. And,
oh, but that's beautiful.
Like
as a philosopher,
dumb.
I see the beauty of a freeway. But again, here's my point, and I need to take a break here. God, you know how long we've been doing this? At any rate, give me about 5 minutes to take a break. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot of different things that we covered. How are you guys doing?
It's good with that we're bridging communication gaps, though.
Right.
I'm doing good.
The kind of conversations I have with them all the time. You're like, man, maybe I just need to have them on my podcast. These are conversations that we come up against, right? Like, these are hard-headed people. And it's just also good to hear the other perspectives, you know?
Right. If we didn't have room for other perspectives, we'd all be America number one, America number one.
Yeah. Get out of our echo chamber a bit. And because what's the point in just talking to people who agree with you, you know? But at the same time, we want to find out why these disagreements are happening, and it's a gradual process. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're going to see. But we don't come at it with in a bellicose way. Like if we were like super far left, whatever, and we just screamed at them the entire time. I mean, that's not productive.
Right. Yeah. Disagreement is way different from just plain old fight. Yeah.
But Jeremy and Shale, you've been kind of quiet.
I'm here. I'm letting you guys do the talking.
Oh, this conversation's been great. I'm really enjoying this, guys.
It's fascinating. Yeah.
I've got to chime in a little something about like being poor in the U.S. versus being poor anywhere else. When I was homeless and pregnant with my son, we were living in an abandoned factory. It used to be a little teddy bear gift basket factory, like back in the 70s, and it's abandoned now. And pregnant, living in the place. Made friends with management, got allowed to squat. I mean, where else could you like, hey man, I'm poor and pregnant, can I like crash here for a while? And then they like turn on the electricity. I had a mini fridge and an electric wok and a coffee pot. Where else? Like I in the Britain, I'd have been chucked in jail. I'm heading to Alberta, Canada. If I'd have tried that there, I'd have been chucked in jail. And deported. So, I do kind of got to agree with, if you're going to be poor in the U.S., at least you can make friends with somebody and crash in their shed.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You don't think you can do that anywhere else? I think you can do that anywhere.
I think if you find the right people, you can pull it off.
I don't think it's a uniquely American or even specifically American thing. You can do that in most countries, I'd say.
Yo, I'm back. What'd I miss?
Welcome back.
Me talking about living in a shed down by the river.
I'm sorry that I missed that. Sure, you're an interesting woman.
You were talking earlier about being poor in the U.S. versus being poor anywhere else. And, when I came here in search of a better life and ended up being taken into slavery instead, pregnant with my son, who I was forced to be pregnant, at knife point, because Massa couldn't get a housing voucher as a single white dude without a veteran background. So he needed a cripple and he needed a kid, and that's what he did. But we were living in this shed, and it's like, I don't know anywhere else where you can like come up pregnant and got $2 in your pocket and come up to management like, hey man, can I crash here as long as I keep the tweakers out of the yard? And then he turned on the electricity. Like I had a mini fridge, a coffee pot, an electric wok, a space heater.
Ain't America great?
I mean, anywhere else, I'd have been chucked in jail.
Why do you think that?
A bum and a trespasser.
I don't think that's true. I don't think you're less likely to have found, hospitality anywhere else. In fact, I think perhaps the opposite. I think most European nations and Canada, you would have been more likely to find more people like that. And in fact, here, there's a good chance, a better chance than in those places, someone would have just called the cops on you, because that's kind of more of our culture. I don't understand why you have this sense of America. It's very different than mine.
Because, and again, I'll explain it to you, and I'll make it easy. You still haven't gotten the concept yet, okay? You exist in your own universe of your
I do get that concept.
Okay. All right. So when you tell me that your country is better than my country, and again, my country is Athens, so, or Greece.
Yeah.
But my ideas, I like to compare institutions, and my idea of a republic is so revolutionary. And in a short period of time of 200 years, the rest of the European cultures, the rest of the people who've been around, you say, oh, they're so much better than Americans. And I say, well, that's only because they believe they're better than Americans. They really don't have an idea.
And you wouldn't say the same is true about you. You have this idea that, they wouldn't agree with, and they would think you shouldn't feel better than they.
I'm sorry, I missed that. I don't understand the reasoning behind that.
Well, I mean, why is your sense better than theirs if they think their country is better?
No, I'm not. I'm just telling you that from my perspective, and I have a perspective of age that you don't have. From my perspective of age and experience, I would tell you that you are wrong, but I would not tell you that that makes a bit of difference, because it's only my perception and my reality. And in fact, I believe we're having this reality.
Support on why, other than just because it's my reality? You see, it's like you're not really big on details.
Oh, well, again, I only do what I can control. The only thing that I can control is that I live in San Diego, and it is, you know, I have a car, I exist, and I can't make a difference on who the president of the United States is going to be. I can't run the world. I can't tell you what to do. So my power in the world is relatively. So what difference does what I feel as far as what should be make it any more valuable than you of what it should be?
So again, really no support for your case.
No,
it's kind of an avoidance.
See, you refuse to understand how I've ended, and it goes back to the argument of there are two kinds of people in the world. You hit a point where there is no further discussion. You either believe or don't believe. That's the thesis and the antithesis of an argument, where you have now come to the crux of the truth. And the truth is so stunningly evident to one person and to the other person that there can be no agreement or disagreement, and that's it. You say thank you very much and go on to the next thing.
All right, then.
See, he got it. The bolt of lightning just struck.
All right, moving on then. Let's talk about. I'm curious to pick your brain on this, man. Kanye West.
Oh,
Kanye West 2020.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I want it. The birthday party. He's doing what I did. He started his own political party. It's a great idea. Kanye West, and again, he's like the Andrew Yang of the black people. A man whose time has come, whose ideas have come. I want to support him. He's going to divide the black vote. It's a wonderful thing.
I'm really curious to see how it does divide the black vote, because consider his demographic at least with black people, 18 to 29, which is historically not exactly a big, voting block sector that turns out to vote. They don't really massively swing elections very often. I think you would agree with that. So what do you say?
No, you're wrong. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Kanye West of California. Arnold Schwarzenegger won governor strictly on the fact that he was a star in a state that worships stars. Kanye West will garner a lot of votes throughout the United States because they will register votes. See, that's what Arnold Schwarzenegger did. He says, hey, if you like me and you're not registered to vote, you really don't like me. That's what Kanye West is going to say. You want to be an American, you want to vote for me, you got to register to vote. So Kanye West is going to he'll be a serious candidate.
Do you think they'll let him on the debate stage if he actually grows in that kind of popularity?
Well, you see, there's the problem that you have with the two-party system. Okay, and that's what happened to what's his name, the rich guy that tried to buy in with the Democratic Party.
Bloomberg.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Bloomberg.
Michael Bloomberg.
Michael Bloomberg. Perfect example. You run on your own party, but you're trying to crash their party. Okay, so Kanye West is going to have that problem, and Kanye West is going to be welcome on the Republican Party. And I want you to know, if the Hogwash Party can hold presidential elections, we'll invite them all. But the Hogwash Party won't be that big, probably for another 100 years or so. But it'll be. It's sort of like a river. It just keeps moving the rocks down the road.
So
I got 1,000 things I could ask you, man. Next on the list would be Roger Stone. President Trump just pardoned Roger Stone yesterday.
Yeah.
What's your feelings on that?
You know what? Isn't this a great? First of all, you got to understand what my philosophy is about the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice damn near came very, very close to overturning the will of the people. Okay. There is a deep state here, and I am as a Republican, as a member of the hogwash party, as a philosopher, it troubles me deeply that paid employees can screw around with an election. And that's what happened here. And it's been going on for 200 years in the history of America, is that political candidates and government employees and the one percenters once again are playing the games with us. But Roger Stone, to the victors go the spoils. President Trump is the victor. And one of the spoils is he gets to pardon people that are his friends. So you want me to be upset with the fact that he's pardoning one of his friends? Well, hell, if you like Gavin Newsom, he pardoned a guy whose son killed a police officer. You know, he has the power to do it. Who am I as a philosopher to say, hey, don't do it because I disagree with it? That's my answer about Roger Stone. My feeling about it is President Trump won the election fair and square. One of the perks of the job is he can pardon the guy, and he did. End of story. What can I do?
I kind of piggybacks on the same topic with Roger Stone and WikiLeaks. So Julian Assange is obviously taken into custody a while back. Rumors are he's going to be extradited to the United States. Do you think Julian Assange deserves to be convicted for espionage or the crimes that have been he's been accused of?
Absolutely. If you steal secrets, you know, this is what laws are all about. We have laws, okay? And if he's guilty of the laws, then he should pay, and that's why we have a justice system. It's not a good justice system. None of us here agrees that we have a perfect justice system. But I'll tell you this: I love the Constitution. In any place in the world, you tell me anywhere you want to be in the world, I want to be where the Constitution is. From a philosophical standpoint, I will argue this statement: the Constitution of the United States and the 200 years of its history and implementation make it the best justice system in the world today.
Yeah, you think so? I mean, I know you're not big on sports. I don't know how I can debate this with you, because you just say, well, that's just your opinion, man. But really, we have the best justice system in the world when we have, riots about our injustice right now.
Hey, they've been rioting throughout history. Yeah. Riots are part of being a human being. Rioting doesn't impress me.
That's not relevant. No. Riots happen for a reason. Just because they happen.
Yeah, they want to take rioting. Yeah, we want to take back something. We want to steal something. That's why we riot, so we can steal stuff.
Look, riots happen because people aren't listened to.
No, riots happen because people want to steal things.
All right, man.
That's history.
Okay, that's history. That's dogma.
Yeah,
like you just, everything you say is it's right because it's right.
No, I just say what it is. I don't try and tell you it's right or wrong. I just tell you what it is. You can disagree or agree with it. It goes back to two kinds of people. You either believe it or you don't believe it.
Well, okay. So we had someone on who had participated in a protest where she was eventually just like protecting some of the stores that were, Black owned or whatever it was. And so, I mean, some of it almost looked like the people were paid to destroy the place, or they were for the greed.
Looting. This is what rioting is all about. Whenever you have a riot, you loot.
I don't think looting and rioting are the same thing necessarily, though. Because, I mean, if you get people to such an anger point on the emotional scale, their IQ is lowered, right? They're just pissed off at this point. And some people don't have control over their anger, or they've never been this angry in their life.
And they should go to jail for it, too. That's why we have jails. If you can't control your anger, you go to jail.
But we have police officers that aren't controlling their anger.
So you're saying to me that it's okay to get angry and go looting?
Well, is it okay for a police person to get angry?
Just change the subject. You didn't answer directly.
No, I'm not going to defend policemen. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to tell you is that when people go out and steal from other people, it's what it is. It's looting. It has nothing to do with this lofty bill that it's because we love blacks or we love whites or we hate injustice. It has to do with stealing.
But see, why do people steal? Let's
because they don't have money. Yeah, they don't have jobs.
And why do they not have?
Right now, The reason we have looting and violence in America is because the hogwash virus has put everybody out of work, and people are nervous.
So okay, then why would people? Okay, so what are other reasons why people are out of work?
The only reason that I understand the economy is not working is because of all the restrictions in place because of the hogwash violence.
No. But like,
virus.
Okay, I'm just saying, like,
before this happened, we had almost 100% employment, and crime was zero. There was no looting. Everybody was going to work. Everybody was happy.
The metrics we used to judge the economy prior to this outbreak were very poor. They didn't represent the quality of life of the average person. Everyone was very unhappy. The economy was not working for almost anyone.
You say everybody was unhappy? A small segment of the population was unhappy. The way you know people are unhappy is they either are committing crimes or they're rioting. Crime was down and there was no rioting. They were
crime.
No, those are the incorrect.
Not exactly. They're leading lives of quiet desperation. They may not be committing crimes, but a lot of people living these lives of quiet desperation.
You have a lot of like X equals Y that is actually just not correct.
For everything I've been through, I've never gone out looting because I was forced into unpaid labor. I didn't go and rob the Walmart because my mom beat me, I'm a fan of peaceful protest.
There you go. Me too.
Yes. But Sherry, though, like
because once you cross that line and you use violence and theft and criminal behavior to prove your point, what you're proving is that you're savage. You're
stealing. Let's be honest. I told you they're stealing. They're looting. That's what it is. There's nothing noble about this.
Exactly. You kill your own point when you go
exactly. And look at it. Look at where they're doing the damage.
For all these school shooters. Columbine happened when I was 12 and so strung out on morphine. I didn't know my own name because that's when my leg happened. And that's what woke me up out of the morphine haze was, holy shit, these kids my age took these guns to freaking Columbine, which is now right up the street from where I'm at. I was in Wisconsin in nowhere's little town surrounded by cornfields, hearing about Columbine School in Colorado, and it's right up the street from where I'm at now. And so strung out on morphine, like, but wait, these kids shot up their school because they didn't have friends and their teachers were mean to them? Are you serious? I should have blown my school up. You ain't even. But, for me having more reasons than these fools have excuses, I have not succumbed to the violence, me and my stutter. Because if I would have gone and retaliated in such a strong way, I would have been that crazy cripple woman and I would have been the villain. I would have not been, wow, she gets her ass whooped by every little punk ass after school and before school. Wow, we should help her. No, I would have been the crazy cripple bitch who went out with a gun and just started shooting up folks. I would have, lost any righteousness I ever would have had I gone about that way.
It's all we're all just talking about the symptoms of the pain. We have pain. There's cancer in our country, and we all think we found where the pain. We've just not really, right? We don't have an ability to do that because we have,
the thing
roadblocks.
Is we're not striking this thing at the roots. We're going after like the branches, and the root is just this inequality. And Socrates, I agree with you with this 1% and the kind of like thing that they're robbing the nation blind. But I also think
the humanity blind. Let's identify the 1%ers. It's not America. It's not France. It's not Germany. These people are at the top of the food chain. They run the governments of those countries. They report. That's why Epstein was able to play this game so well. Is anything that all of the documentation that are available to the reporters and all of that stuff, all that stuff has been modified. The 1%ers are above national.
Yeah. So I think this is a place of like agreement, but the question is that the only way that we can be effective is to help the least of these. You know, if we just ignore the least of these in our population and we go for the whole make them pull themselves up by their bootstraps, which is, I think, the new let them eat cake, we're not really doing it justice. We have to look at like why these things happen. And that's why, like, I think we were all on board with Yang and his UBI idea. But the question is that are we going to be lazy and just say like, oh, they'll never, you know, do this for us, so we're not even going to try? Or there's a way we can be a thorn in the side of these 1% people, but do it in a way that's smart, not in a way that's just like idiotic and all going nuts. You know, do it in a way that uses some strategy, some intellect. That's my piece.
All right. You know what? You and I would have done well in Athens because we come up with our ideas and then we live a long time and we see what happens to these ideas. Okay. You have done what we all as human beings aspire to do. We see a better way of things being done and we wonder, why can't we make it happen? Okay. And that's the human condition. We live our life. You say quiet desperation. I love that word. Living lives of quiet desperation. I was the poet that came up, or I knew the poet that came up with that. But what I'm trying to say is that we as human beings, and the fact that we're all talking today says that we care about where humanity is going. The fact that we're even discussing this says that we care about our fellow human beings. We feel that we are superior to them because we know where they should be going. And now we're trying to argue with each other how to get there. And I love that. I love being able in your company because I feel the vibrance of the passion of ideas. And you have the rest of your life to implement them.
Well, I mean,
I think that might be a
we've hit 2 hours, haven't we?
Yeah, I think that might be a good place to call it quits.
Place.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
Hey, it's been fun. I love it.
Yeah.
A spirited debate, to be sure.
Yes, yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for inviting me. I had the time of my life.
Glad to hear it.
Thank you, Sherry, as well. Thank you for coming on. And Sherry,
this is what it's about, you know, bridging these communication gaps, you know.
Yeah.
Well, anytime you want an opinion, call me. I have an opinion on everything.
Right, he said.
We have an infinite amount of those.
And I have, you know, again, I always love the analogy of if you put 12 monkeys in a room and give them infinity, they will eventually produce the complete work of Shakespeare. I love that idea.
Yeah, that's what's fun.
It is. All right, God bless you. I'm going to say goodbye.
And
bye, Rich.
Bye, Rich.
Bye, everybody.
Absolutely joyous to be part of this. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
But
Very much.
if I don't get back to mom time, I'm gonna have a revolution on my hands. So
all right.
I wonder if we can get Rich to retweet us or something, or like at least give him this video and put him here because it'll, you know, bridge communication. Yeah.
It'll stroke his ego, and it's an advertisement for his hogwash. Oh, in a heartbeat. In a freaking
okay. Yeah, you know,
all about sales. Did you not see that?
He is a character.
Yeah, he's a real character, that's for sure.
I tried to like give some like by the way, I did try. Like he's not in our echo chamber. Not in the slightest.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I don't mind that. It's just like there was a bit of fast talk going on. That's the part I did not care for.
There's a bit of
evasive speech.
Yeah.
I'm not like. But other than that,
Shale, I think you were right.
No problem.
Like there was a bit of a cognitive dissonance there, but at
really
least,
wouldn't address a lot of stuff.
Right, exactly. But at least he was open, you know, because if you go into when I remember when well, you know,
no, he wasn't open.
There was illusion of openness, and the fast talk was actually what we got instead.
But he was
here to teach, not to learn.
How can we say? Yeah, that's true. He was willing to entertain. But I think the last.
I'm glad. I mean, like, I'm not to. I'm glad. I have him on again. I'm sure you wouldn't mind.
I think the last thing I said about the 1%, like, could really agree with, but we're just saying that this UBI is like a way to take away that power and to do a little bit more for the least of these. That kind of like hit home with him a little bit at least. So that's thing. But I remember when Yang infiltrated that closed Trump group because one of the admins was like becoming Yang. They would not. They were just anger, hate, poison, and not willing to entertain anything other than Trump. If you even mentioned something that had nothing to do with Trump, they would just beat their chests and get angry and but he's not like that.
What are you saying about how I converted Trump warrior to Yang warrior? What were you saying about that?
Right.
You personally did that?
You personally did that?
Are we still streaming?
Aaron,
Yeah, we're still streaming.
Edited forward warrior. Manny used to be Trump warrior 45.
Yeah, I remember.
Right. Yeah.
I was part of the group who converted him by sharing Yang links and Yang's policies. Here's some information. You want to talk smack? Here's some data. Go for it.
Right. Exactly.
He's like my favoriteest big brother in the whole world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but I think that was like a group effort. It was like like a whole
part of the group.
Right.
We all squished them. Like here's
right.
Yes.
It's with some people it's gradual, but other people just get it right away depending on I don't know what it's depending on, but yeah.
My phone is I'm gonna get going, guys. My phone's at like 10%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so it was a good long
I'll talk to you later. Thanks
thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Back tomorrow.
Bye.